forwards. One moment, everything changed. The conference room froze. The steady hum of the air conditioner and the soft buzz of fluorescent lights suddenly felt deafening. Moments earlier, it was just another Thursday afternoon at Carrington Global, a routine board meeting filled with dry numbers and polite nods. But now, chairs sat half, pushed back as eyes darted to the man who'd spoken. Jack Rook stood near the polished mahogany table, shoulders squared, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had been trained to protect. He wasn't dressed like the other men in tailored suits. His navy button-down and rolled sleeves spoke of practicality, not power. A single father and former Navy SEAL, Jack was now head of security, a position that kept him close to danger, but allowed him to be home for his 9-year-old daughter by dinner. At the other end of the table, CEO Marissa Hale stood frozen, a folder clutched in her trembling hand. Her face, usually unreadable and composed, betrayed a flicker of fear. Beside her, board member Victor Lanning, known for his charm and ruthless deals, had stepped too close for comfort. His hand, which had been casually resting on the back of her chair, lingered in a way that made every person in the room feel the weight of unspoken threat. The moment Jack spoke, Victor's smirk faltered. "Excuse me." Victor's voice oozed arrogance, but there was a tremor beneath it. Jack didn't repeat himself. He simply took a step forward, his eyes steady, calm, and unflinching. Years of military discipline showed in every controlled movement. What no one in the room knew, except Marissa, was that this wasn't just a case of unwanted attention. Victor had been scheming for months, secretly rallying other board members to overthrow Marissa and seize control of the company. Marissa had built Carrington Global from the ground up after her father's sudden death, sacrificing relationships, sleep, and any semblance of a personal life to keep the company alive. Victor saw her dedication as weakness, and in the last hour, when the meeting turned to a crucial vote, he had crossed a line that was no longer just corporate, it was personal. "Jack," Marissa said softly, a warning in her tone. She wasn't afraid of Jack, she was afraid of what his intervention might spark. But Jack didn't waver. "Step back," he said, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Now," Victor scoffed. "This is a board meeting, not a..." Jack moved faster than anyone expected. He didn't touch Victor, but the sudden shift of his stance, the quiet readiness of a man trained for combat, made it clear he didn't need to. The room seemed to tilt toward him, gravity bending to the force of his presence. Victor's bravado cracked. With a sneer, he backed away from Marissa, muttering something about overreacting. But the damage was done. The silent corporate ambush had been exposed. The meeting ended abruptly, the board members filing out with stiff goodbyes and careful eyes. When the door finally closed, leaving only Jack and Marissa, the weight of what had just happened settled like dust after a storm. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice tight. "Jack, this could cost you your job." "Victor will." "Let him try." Jack interrupted, his jaw set. "No one lays a hand on you. Not here, not anywhere." Marissa exhaled shakily. She was used to handling battles on her own. She'd faced hostile takeovers, sexist boardrooms, endless nights of strategizing in empty offices. But Jack's unwavering loyalty, so simple, so absolute, broke through the armor she wore every day. What followed wasn't just the fallout of a single confrontation. Victor retaliated, of course. He called emergency meetings, spread rumors about Jack's unprofessionalism, and even tried to discredit Marissa's leadership. The company's future wavered on a knife's edge as alliances shifted. Jack faced his own trials. HR launched an investigation questioning his aggressive behavior. Lawyers sent letters. He risked losing not only his job, but the stability his daughter depended on. Nights were the hardest, when he tucked little Emily into bed and she asked why he looked so tired. He never told her the truth, only kissed her forehead and promised that everything would be okay. Meanwhile, Marissa fought a battle of her own. Victor's campaign to oust her grew ruthless, but with Jack's quiet support, she began to push back. They worked late nights, strategizing not just defense but offense, uncovering shady dealings Victor thought he'd buried. Through it all, an unspoken connection grew between them. It wasn't about romance, not yet. It was about trust. Two people who had built walls around their hearts found someone willing to stand guard beside them. Final showdown came during a shareholder meeting 3 weeks later. Victor arrived with a smug smile, believing he had the votes to take control. But Marissa, armed with evidence of his financial misconduct, evidence Jack had risked his own safety to uncover, turned the tide. One by one, the votes fell in her favor. When the last tally was announced, Victor's face blanched. Security escorted him out, his empire of manipulation collapsing behind him. After the meeting, as the boardroom emptied, Marissa found Jack leaning against the same table where it had all begun. "You didn't have to risk everything," she said softly. Jack gave a small, tired smile. "I couldn't stand by and watch the wrong thing happen. Sometimes you've got to do what's right, no matter the cost." Marissa's eyes glistened. "And if the cost had been your job," he shrugged, "then I'd find another. My daughter needs to see that doing what's right matters more than keeping what's comfortable." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. No grand speeches, no sudden confessions, just the quiet understanding of two people who had faced darkness and chosen courage. That night, as Jack walked through his front door and heard his daughter's laughter, he knew he'd made the right choice. The world might never know the details of what happened in that boardroom, but Emily would grow up with a father who showed her that strength isn't in titles or power. It's in the moments you stand up when no one else will. And Marissa, standing at her office window long after the city lights came on, felt a rare, unfamiliar warmth. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone at the top. 4 words, 1 moment, everything changed. Because sometimes it only takes a single voice to stop the wrong, and a single act of courage to remind the world that integrity still matters.